All right, so I've come up with a list of about 4 different things that you should know before going into purchasing a car at CarMax. One is more expensive. They sell a lot of rental and auction cars. That's 2. What they go after are people that are not really educated in the car buying process, dishonest about damages.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, please hold me, don't show me, Obi.
All right, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am doing something a little bit different. I wanted to get out in nature and actually get a little sunshine in instead of being in my little studio the whole time. And the purpose of this video is I've had a lot of comments on my, god damn, that's oh my god, bug up the nose. That's one of the challenges of doing these things outside. Okay, that's about all the nature that I can take for one day. I think I'm gonna finish this video up inside. The wind was blowing. I had bugs going up my nose, so I think it's just, we'll finish it in here in the safety and comfort of the truck. So the reason that I'm making this video today is because I've made a couple of videos on CarMax. I've made a couple of buyer guides, or the benefits basically of shopping at CarMax, and I've had some criticism about it to where some people think that I work for the company or I'm collecting some kind of a paycheck from the company. I'm not, but they also, some people had mentioned that they wish that I had been more critical or at least came up with the cons, even though that's really not, that wasn't the point of those videos. That was basically, if you're planning on purchasing a car from CarMax, then here's the info, here's kind of a buyer's guide to help you along that process. So I have decided to make kind of a shopping at CarMax cons list for everybody out there so that you can get, I guess, both sides of the story, right? Because there is a lot of cons to shopping at CarMax, and you can actually lump other companies like Carvana in the mix too. These are corporate companies that don't always have the, your best interests in mind and all that stuff. So it is, I guess, beneficial for you to know some of the cons that are associated with purchasing a vehicle from that company. All right, so I've come up with a list of about 4 different things that you should know before going into purchasing a car at CarMax. And just to give you the quick rundown of them, we'll go. 1 is more expensive. You're going to pay more money when you shop at CarMax, and Carvana for that matter. They sell a lot of rental and auction cars. That's 2. They target uneducated buyers, and I wouldn't say target, might be the wrong way to put it, but what they go after are people that are not really educated in the car buying process, people who aren't mechanically inclined anyway. And they're also dishonest about damages, basically accident reporting. Okay, so those are the 4 things that we're going to cover. But first, what I want to start with is when you should be buying a car in the first place, okay? Because you should really never finance a vehicle unless you have really good credit. I mean, I'm talking about credit that is good enough to get you at least at a 5% or lower interest rate, okay? You should never really, and I say you should never, but I'm honestly in a situation now where I'm paying a lot of interest. I'm paying a high APR for my car, but I was in a situation that I needed to. But honestly, the smart way to do it is you should not be financing a car unless 1, it's brand new or still new enough that it has some of the factory warranty on it. And 2, you really shouldn't unless you have good credit that is going to get you that 5%, APR or lower. And there are people out there that can get 1, 2, 3%, 0 sometimes. They can get a personal loan and get 0% and purchase it that way. That's really the only time you should be financing a car, okay, is if you have phenomenal credit. Just my opinion on that. But other than that, you should really not purchase a car unless you have the money to purchase that car outright, if you want to own a car, okay? Because there's even something to be said about leasing vehicles or purchasing brand new. The 2 benefits of leasing vehicles or purchasing brand new is a lot of people that purchase vehicles brand new, they're going to go 1 or 2 years in that vehicle, and then they're going to swap into another brand new vehicle. And the reason people do this is for the same reason that they're leasing a vehicle, is you've made the decision that I would rather basically pay a monthly fee to be able to drive newer vehicles, that I don't have to worry about mechanical failures and stuff like that. That's why people purchase new. That's why people buy lease vehicles, because they're going to be able to just go back in a couple of years when that lease or when they decide to do a trade-in, whatever, and get another new vehicle that has factory warranty, that they don't have to worry about mechanical failures and stuff like that. Now, if you want to purchase and own that car, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't want the monthly payment, right? If you want to purchase and own that car, then save up your money to purchase and own that car. Easier said than done, I understand, but really, that's how you should be purchasing a vehicle. The old Warren Buffett way. If you can't afford it, then don't buy it. But I already know what a lot of people are saying. A lot of us don't have the luxury, and I sound like a hypocrite right now because I just told you that I am in a car loan with a high APR because I have bad credit. But that's the situation that I was in. I needed a newer vehicle, and I didn't want to. Here's what I did for years, okay? So even as a kid, when I was purchasing vehicles, I would go the classifieds route, right? So I would have whatever money, a little chunk of change saved up. And I understand that this is harder too because everything is a lot more expensive. But my first car was a 2004 Ford Thunderbird that I saved up $2,500 for and just bought it straight out of the classifieds, right? And then I owned that car for years. Now, again, this is not a one-size-fits-all thing for everybody. I understand a lot of us out there just need a car and we need something somewhat reliable. And this goes back to the benefit that CarMax and Carvana offers, is that you can purchase a vehicle from them. It'll be more expensive, but you also have guarantees in place. So if the drivetrain, the engine, or any big failure happens and you've purchased into this warranty or extra care that they have for it, you know, the extra coverage, then you're covered. It's a little peace of mind that works for people that aren't mechanically inclined and don't know how to fix their own vehicles, stuff like that. Now, I was going off on a tangent there. Let's get back to it. So, again, all I'm saying is you really shouldn't go into purchasing a vehicle unless, one, you can afford it, two, you shouldn't finance it unless you have good credit, and you shouldn't purchase it unless you have the money to purchase it outright, okay? That's the perfect world. Now, let's get into some of these cons that I spoke about, starting with it's more expensive. So, why are CarMax cars more expensive? Because they're a corporation. You really don't need any more of an explanation to that. This is a corporation that is beholden to shareholders, and year over year, their goal is to make profit. And this alone is going to be enough for them to just throw stuff into the price of the thing, okay? So they're going to mark it up. They'll sell it as, we have the best guarantees, we have the best benefits, stuff like that. That's why it's more expensive, when the truth is, shareholders need to see a profit year over year. And that will just be thrown into the price of the vehicle year over year. Now, of course, if it gets to a point that they're too expensive, then they obviously have to make some adjustments. But for the most part, they are really just adding to the bottom line. They're just adding to the price of that vehicle just to do it, okay? A good example, I was working at a small company called Auto Glass Center, bought out by a big company called Safelite. Auto Glass Center was doing rock chip repairs, you know, fixing the little cracks in the window and stuff like that. $29 by the time Safelite bought them over. A week later, after Safelite finally slapped their name on the front of that store, rock chip repairs went up to $79 overnight. They just went up that much for no other reason than we are Safelite, we have the better technicians. They were selling all of the quote unquote benefits, but the truth is they just upped the price on it because they wanted more money for them. And that's basically what corporations are going to do. They're going to look for reasons to charge more and add more wherever they can. Okay, so that's one reason that they're more expensive. But really what they're going to say is it's because of all of the guarantees that they have in place. And that is true. Some of that price that goes into these CarMax vehicles, they do have to take into consideration all of the vehicles that they're going to have to pay warranty on, because they do have, I forget exactly what their warranties are right now, but I believe it's a 90-day return policy. They have their Max Care guarantee if you purchase and, you know, if you buy into that. That is also wrapped into the purchase price of the vehicle. Even if you decide not to get the extended coverage Max Care, they're taking into consideration all of the breakdowns and all of the stuff that they are going to have to buy. So that is added in there and basically made part of the price as well. Okay. So yes, CarMax cars are going to be more expensive. Big reason being is, again, they're beholden to shareholders and they just need to maximize profit on each vehicle that they can. But two, they also have a lot of the guarantees and everything, they're kind of hidden into the purchase price of that vehicle as well. They're putting all of their overhead, all of that stuff into that price. So definitely more expensive for the most part. You're not always going to find a more expensive car. I know in my video, I've found scenarios where it's not the most expensive, but in general, CarMax typically has more expensive cars. And if it's not just right on the tip, like if you don't see just basically the sticker price of that is not more expensive, they usually get you with the interest rate. Because for anybody that's not paying attention, the interest rate is, well, they'll stick it to you, where they'll charge 12%, 10%, on up for people that don't have stellar credit. So that is where they're getting a lot of their money too, because they will try to kind of push you towards their CarMax financing. And I forget exactly what it's called, but it's an in-house financing. So it's CarMax financing, and their interest rates aren't always the best. Now, I know I'm going to have some people disagree with me and say that they did not have any problem with the CarMax financing, that they got 5%, whatever. That's great. But for the most part, they're really looking for people that have not great credit, and that they can get into these more high interest loans and, pay whatever the hell they're willing to pay just because they're so happy and excited that they were able to get a car in the first place. All right, number two, they sell a lot of auction and rental cars. I've said this in my buyer's guide, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I still believe that to be true. I think as long as they're doing their due diligence, if they're checking that vehicle and replacing anything that needs to be replaced, all of that stuff, then it should not be that big of a deal. Plus you have your 90-day guarantee. You can bring it back for any reason, all that stuff. With that said, if you had the option of buying something that came from an auction, or not an auction lot, but if you had the option to buy something that was previously a rental, where a bunch of people who did not care about that vehicle were driving that vehicle, they were, hard on the brakes, hard on the drivetrain, hard on everything because they didn't care about that vehicle, versus buying a vehicle from somebody, what do they call it? Just one previous owner, right? You're buying it from somebody that is basically a for sale by owner. They've owned that vehicle. They bought it brand new. Now they're selling it. 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to buy it from that individual who was one owner, who took care of that car and, didn't run it into the ground and basically, took care of it, right? Versus that rental car that was put through the ringer, okay? Because rental cars are abused, they're beat up. Again, should not be that big of a deal as long as the vehicle is inspected. If CarMax is doing their due diligence and doing that inspection like they should be doing, and replacing anything that is going bad and all that stuff, then less of a problem. But yes, the better car is the one that had the least amount of owners. So that really speaks for itself, okay? You would very much rather have a vehicle that was taken care of by one person than one that was abused by many, right? So moving on. They target uneducated buyers, okay? And target might be the wrong word on this. It's not like they're out there, headhunting people that don't know any better. But the truth is, CarMax is a place that is designed for people that don't know about the car buying process. CarMax is a place that brings you in and says, look, you're not going to have the hassle, the haggle of having to talk to a salesperson who's going to try to manipulate you, all this stuff. No. We've set the price. We've set one good low price, and that's all you have to worry about. We're taking this stress off of your plate, right? So they're kind of disguising it as a benefit, that there's no haggle. It's for you, that way you don't have to deal with a sleazy salesman, right? What that does, though, is it does draw in a lot of people that don't care to or don't want to do the research themselves. And I'm not saying this is a big deal, okay? There's not a lot of people, and I'll take, my generation can take kind of the blame for this, because we're definitely, for a lot of us, I can't speak for all of us, but I'm Gen X, and we're definitely less mechanically savvy, or, we have less mechanical knowledge than our parents did. And us and millennials, pushing it down to the Gen Z crowd now, probably virtually no mechanical aptitude. And again, I'm not speaking for everybody. I know there's a lot of Gen Z out there that are tuning on their own machines. That's great. But for the most part, this is a knowledge that we no longer have. Not a lot of us are very mechanically, inclined, and not a lot of us really know
how to kind of properly value a vehicle or to make sure that it's running properly and all that stuff. So,
all right, so in defense of everyone out there, cars have increasingly got more difficult to work on as well. There's computer systems, proprietary tools, all kinds of stuff. It used to be just like foreign vehicles back in the day that you'd have to have some kind of a special tool for. Now it seems like there is way more, so much more that we just can't even really touch. We need the dealership's help with and all that stuff. So that is a big part of it too. The reason why people aren't so mechanically inclined anymore, because there's just so much knowledge and so much technology that's been implemented into these cars that sometimes it's just near impossible to diagnose this stuff yourself.
What CarMax does is they say, we've got you guaranteed with this inspection that we've done. It's mechanically sound. You don't have to worry about negotiating the price, all that stuff. We've taken care of it, all of it. And it's just like purchasing a PC now, right? All you have to do is pay the sticker price and you're out the door. It's simple, right? So they've simplified it, but that does come at a cost. Quite literally a cost, because if you are mechanically inclined, if you do have the proper negotiating skills, if you kind of know what a vehicle's worth, and if you put the work in, you know, Kelley Blue Book and just basically comparing prices at different companies or making online comparisons, if you can do all of that, then you're going to save money. And it gives you power to negotiate at a traditional dealership to where you could say, yes, this is a clean vehicle, but I do notice that this 100,000 mile inspection or service is coming up and this hasn't been done. Maybe we can work something on the price because I know I'm going to have to get that service done. Stuff like that. Okay. So if you, like I said, going back to it, if you're mechanically inclined, if you are good at all that stuff that I just mentioned, then by all means, you're definitely going to save money. You should not be buying a car at CarMax. So CarMax definitely wants to sell to people that know less about the process, because what they are doing is taking all of the grunt work away from you, right? You don't have to think. You just go in there and buy a vehicle, and that's exactly what they're going for. And they know that that's a lot of us these days. You know what I'm saying? But what's the big deal? You know, not a lot of us are hunting our own meat anymore. We'd rather go pay excessive markups to get it right out of a package and get ground beef. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of the way the world works. But that is one thing to keep in mind, is they know that their average customer doesn't really know much about the car buying process, and that's kind of what they rely on. Okay, last but not least, they tend to be dishonest about damages. Okay, now I don't want to say that they're outright lying, but to me this is a problem, because they can tell you, even though a vehicle's been painted from front to back, they can tell you this thing has not been in any accidents, but that might not necessarily be true. What they don't have to tell you is if a vehicle has been in an accident, because it could be very clear that the vehicle's been in an accident, but as long as it wasn't reported to insurance, then they don't have to put anything on their report. Does that make sense? So you can have a vehicle that's had hail damage, that's needed entire, sides of the car, hoods replacements, stuff like that. They sell a lot of vehicles that have been patch fixed, right? And that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people will buy these cars before they go to auction, or they'll buy them from people to where they've had hail damage, fix the damage in their shop or something like that. Just get it done cheaply, get it done quick, and flip it. And it has a clean title. Because it was never reported by the insurance company, then you don't have to mark it down as having damage or being in an accident. You know what I'm saying? So their inspectors can find this stuff. They can find it through, obvious areas that look like they've been painted. They can find it with overspray. There's all kinds of reasons that they could mark that damage has been fixed, but because they don't have to, because it's not legal, because it's not something that was reported to the insurance company, they tend to leave it off and then sell it to you as something that has not been in an accident. That's one thing that I see a lot, is they'll say, look, this fender was very, obviously painted. And to me, that's something that they should disclose. You know what I'm saying? Because who knows where that body shop work was done? Because if it wasn't done at CarMax, but CarMax is selling it, then what kind of warranty does the body work have on it, if any, right? Because you can come back a year later with that car after, a bad paint job is peeling off, or a chunk of body filler falls out, something like that, and they can say, well, that's not really part of the warranty process because that's paint and finish and that was done beforehand, blah, blah, blah. It gets a little sketchy in that area, but they could definitely do more to report more of the damages. And I just don't like the fact that they're able to get vehicles that have been painted from front to back and say that there was no accident, no damages, because there very obviously was, but because of the legalities, because of the technicalities, and it wasn't run through insurance, they don't have to mention it. So,
all right, so there is more that I wanted to add in this part of it because I don't feel like I went deep enough into that. When it comes to reporting damage, you have some really big issues, and not just CarMax and Carvana, but you have really big issues with a lot of people who will buy flood damaged vehicles and, like I'd mentioned before, the hail damage stuff. And what they're going to do is purchase that vehicle from an individual before it gets submitted to insurance. And they'll do that so that it doesn't go on record as being in an accident. It's because a flood, a lot of the time, if a vehicle's flooded, it'll be a total loss. So somebody will buy it before it goes to insurance. That way they can save the title, flip it, detail it, whatever, make some minor adjustments, minor fixes, and then it ends up back on somebody's lot, like CarMax, like Carvana, and traditional dealerships as well. It's a scuzzy move, but there's a lot of scuzz buzzards out there, right? And so the problem is CarMax, anybody that is paying attention, if you have an inspector that really knows what they're looking at, you can find flood damage. And a lot of the times they might find something that has flood damage on it, but they don't have to report it. Now, ethically, you would think it would be a good idea for them to report it, but since it's not on record anywhere, it wasn't submitted to insurance, then it's not an official accident. You see how that works? So they don't really have to report it, and that's a big problem in my opinion. Obviously, this is stuff that we want to know. We would want to know if the car's been painted. We would want to know if it's had flood damage, stuff like that. But it's one of these big misleading things that a lot of car companies or a lot of car dealerships will do, is just kind of leave it off the record. And technically, they're not doing anything wrong because no accidents were reported.
Again, that's not the biggest one for me. That's something, it kind of goes back to the trained eye. If you know what you're looking for, then you can kind of avoid that situation. But I wish that was something that they would disclose more honestly, because it happens a lot. I've had a lot of comments about similar issues on my, vast library of CarMax videos that I posted, where people have said they've had damages that, after driving it a week, they've noticed like inner trim pieces flopping and stuff like that. Well, that's because the panel was removed, a new fender was put on, and it was all painted and all that stuff. But again, wasn't posted, insurance didn't say anything. Insurance wasn't in the know. We don't have to report it, so we're not going to. So this, I hope, helped. I'm trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head, but I can't right now. Definitely, if you can think of more cons from purchasing a vehicle at CarMax, let me know. Put them in the comments. Maybe it'd be worth making another video for some of the stuff. I don't know. But I wanted to at least put this out there to give you my initial thoughts, or at least make a quick video telling you about the cons of purchasing a vehicle from CarMax. Now, with all the cons out of the way, I will say once again that this does not necessarily mean that I think CarMax is a bad place to purchase a vehicle from. I still think it's going to be better, personal opinion, than going to some mom and pop local dealership and purchasing a vehicle, especially if they don't have any kind of a guarantee. If it's a basically as is, no warranty purchase, I would avoid that. I'm gonna enjoy the safeguards that I get with the CarMax Max Care guarantee, stuff like that, my 90-day return policy. All of the benefits that they have in place, to me, are worth the extra cash. But again, what I mentioned before are the reasons that you should look for. If you're kind of looking for reasons to shop around or maybe not use CarMax, I would say I gave you plenty. So now that I'm rambling, I'm just going to go ahead and end it with thank you for checking out the video. If you're not a subscriber already, what are you waiting for? Please hit the subscribe button, all that stuff. Like the video and all that, blah, 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 blah. Take care of yourselves out there. We'll see ya. Thank you.
You made this? Awesome.
I ride a hippopotamus. I ride a hippopotamus. You can ride my hippopotamus. You can ride my hippopotamus. I ride a hippopotamus. I ride a hippopotamus. You can ride my hippopotamus.